What's a ham radio?
The Cadillac of ham radios.
Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of Ham Radio as Stranger Things podcast. We've got a great episode for you today as usual, but first, we have a little housekeeping to take care of, and I'm going to turn it over to Jasmin to let you know where you can find us on social media and where you can listen to the podcast.
Thanks, Ashley. You can find us on Instagram at Ham Radio Media, all one word, on Twitter at HamThrow, on YouTube at Ham Radio Media, or using our handle Ham Radio 1983. We also have a Discord you can join, which is linked in the description of this episode. If you have a fan theory or question you want to share, you can email us at hamradiomedia@gmail.com. Ashley also has a fanfic on AO3 entitled Stranger Things College, which is also linked in the description. The podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and much more. If you like the show, please consider leaving us a rating or review. We have a lot of totally tubular stuff coming up, so be sure to follow us on social media to keep up with the podcast and all of our new content.
Hey there, friends of the Upside Down, and Happy New Year! Welcome back to Ham Radio as Stranger Things podcast. We hope you all had a fantastic holiday season because we are back, and it is time to talk more Stranger Things. We've recharged, restocked our egos, and we're ready to jump back in and talk about all the behind-the-scenes content that we got in December and January as filming wrapped for the final season of Stranger Things. So to begin, on Tuesday, December the 10th, the Stranger Things broadcast channel shared a video of a crew member bringing Gaten Matarazzo an iced coffee as he arrived on set for an early morning shoot. And then the week of December the 16th, filming for season 5 of the show wrapped, and lots of cast members shared some photos. The broadcast channel shared a bunch of photos from set. We got a black and white photo of Finn, Winona, Noah, and Caleb in costume goofing around on a couch at the radio station. In that photo is Caleb holding the sleeping pillow that I had first spotted on an earlier behind-the-scenes photo. Then we got a color photo of the Duffer Brothers looking at a monitor while filming. Looks like they were in the barn set. And we got a color photo of Charlie, Natalia, and Joe in costumes standing in a field next to a blue car that's got a bicycle in the back seat. Nancy is wearing her candy striper outfit, so she's presumably come from a shift at the hospital.
Yeah, and to me, I think this is one of the most interesting photos in the set because there's like so much going on in this photo. Like, we can see Nancy's apparently been volunteering. And I'm also super curious as to whose bike this is. Because we do see some of the other characters biking and some other footage and photos we've gotten. So I'm curious as, who did they pick up? Might be Dustin, since we see those three characters with Dustin in other behind-the-scenes footage.
Yes, and, Jasmine, you and I were talking privately about the bicycles in the back of the car and how funny it was, like, the last time that Nancy was with the kids and their bicycles in season 3 and they were getting ready to go to the hospital and she backs out and runs them over and that scene just always makes me laugh every time I watch it or think about it because she's just like, who cares about the bikes? We gotta go, and bam,
Yeah, and it's funny because right before that, she's like, seatbelts everybody, and she's like, safety first, and then she just backs over the bikes. And, I've seen GIFs that people have done comparing that scene to when, they steal the RV in season 4, and Steve is, struggling to, drive the thing because it's huge. And they're, driving away, and the people are like, they're running after them. People have commented, it's they're all about safety first, and then, let's just careen out of here. And just take everything else out, which is funny because he gave Max so much shit about that mailbox, her hitting the mailbox. Meanwhile, Nancy and Steve are just hitting everything on the way out.
Yeah, I know, and I believe the cover of the RV fell off when they were taking off, and I'm pretty sure those bikes that Nancy ran over in season 3, there's no way no harm was done to those bicycles, okay?
I mean, I think the one with Steve is a little more understandable because an RV is a bit more like unwieldy. Like it's a very large vehicle. You typically need a lot of practice to drive. So I feel like he was not expecting to have to drive an RV that day. So I feel like that's a bit more understandable. But like, and she just backs up into those bikes. Like she's never driven before in her life in her car, leaving a place she leaves all the time. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, no, it's like you said, like she tells them to like put their seatbelts on, and it's like, but you didn't check what was behind you. Like, thank God there was no like a person wasn't walking behind her because that person, R.I.P.
For sure.
Right, and so then we got a color photo of Gaten in costume wearing another radio station T-shirt, and Sean Levy was pictured in it, and Gaten is pointing a flashlight at something, and there are vines on the wall behind him. Then we got a color photo of Maya Hawke and Brett Gelman in a red truck driving somewhere. Now that is going to be a very interesting matchup for sure. It'd be very interesting to see how that comes about, because I would love to see like Murray's reaction to Robin's tendency to talk a little bit fast.
Yeah, I'm honestly excited for this team up because I feel like those two characters would actually have a lot in common because they're both kind of like conspiracy nuts and they, believe in the supernatural and stuff. I feel like those two characters actually would have quite a bit to talk about. And Robin is a very fast talker, so if Murray can keep up with that, I feel like they'd actually have quite a bit to talk about. I'm interested to know where the red truck comes from because we haven't seen that truck before either. Like, and again, we don't know where in the season this is. So one thought I had was, if the Milte's taken over the town and it's like the apocalypse, stuff's happening the upside down, it's coming to Hawkins. I wonder if they're just grabbing random vehicles, like in like a disaster movie where it's just like you get into the nearest vehicle and you go. Like I wonder if it's something to that effect where they're just like getting in whatever vehicle is in front of them and just like peeling out of there. So I kind of wonder if maybe it's something like that for some of these vehicles anyway. But I'm definitely excited for this team up. And I think Robin's getting some really interesting team ups this year because we've got this one and we've got her scenes with Joyce. And so I'm really excited they're going to be doing more with her character. Also, Dustin seems to really love the radio station. Like, I think he's been pictured in a hat or a t-shirt of something to do with the radio station. And literally, I think pretty much every piece of footage we've gotten so far, either footage or behind the scenes photos. So I'm like, man, he's made working or volunteering at the radio station his entire personality this season, apparently.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it does make a lot of sense because, I mean, he did make Cerebro, and so he kind of, I mean, it seems like radios and that kind of technology is kind of in his wheelhouse. I mean, we know that he's in was in the Hawkins AV club. So yeah, I mean, I like them like giving these characters quote unquote jobs. I mean, they're at that age where most kids their age start working. I mean, I started working when I was 15, so it's great to see that it feels like this is going to be a very mature season in a lot of ways, and I like seeing him out there being surrounded by his love for radios and all that. I think it's very cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for it, and I agree. I think it's good to see them like having jobs and stuff. I feel like that was a big criticism of season 4, which is that everyone had speculated that maybe Jonathan and Argyle were working at the pizzeria together. What kind of job was Will going to have? And then we got there, and it was like for some reason they just don't have jobs, and none of the other characters appear to either, apart from Steve and Robin. Which to me just struck me as really odd because I'm like, well, like you said, like by the time you're 14, 15, most people are, have part-time jobs or summer jobs. And yeah, like it just seemed like it just seemed odd. It's like, why would you not, even just for pocket money, like why would you not be doing that, you know? So I'm glad they're apparently addressing that, and they're going to have actual, like, jobs, and, we're going to see them, working and volunteering presumably this season. So yeah, I'm also excited for that. And looks like Dustin has found his passion. We didn't know this was going to be a plot when we did our future careers episode, but looks like Dustin's going to go into radio or probably something related, I would guess.
Yeah, and I really could actually see him being a radio host, not just like an engineer or anything. Like he loves to talk too, so I definitely could see him doing that. So it will really be interesting to see, number one, who is Jimmy Fast Hands Lee? Is he like, are we actually going to see a Jimmy Fast Hands Lee, or like how's that gonna work? So I really am excited about the radio station subplot this season. I think it's going to be very cool. It's always incredible to me that they find each season new ways and new ideas just creatively to get all of our characters together and connected to the main plot. And everything that they've used, like whether it's season 3 with the mall or apparently season 5 with the radio station, it always just seems so organic, like it's not far-fetched. Like there are a lot of towns, even small towns like Hawkins out there, that have radio stations located within them. So I think it's going to be very interesting. And also I'm really looking forward to Nancy volunteering at the hospital. I think that that's going to be a really fun little subplot as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how she deals with it. Like, we don't know exactly what she's doing. But yeah, I think that'll be really interesting because Nancy's a character that, definitely has a lot of compassion for people, but also, as we've seen, can be very rigid in her own point of view and her own perspective. So I feel like that's going to be very eye-opening for a character like Nancy that clearly grew up privileged with family that comes from money, and prior to Barb going missing had not experienced a lot of hardship, it doesn't look like. So I feel like I feel like a job like that, or she's volunteering or working, is going to be very eye-opening for her character, because seeing that stuff in real life is very different than how it looks on TV and that kind of thing. So I'm also interested to see how she kind of, reacts to that, and how that changes her character,
Yes, me too. Nancy is my top 2 characters after 11. And I love watching Nancy every season, just seeing her investigate and how she goes through and gets behind the scoop of everything. And yeah, I love Nancy. So then we got a black and white photo of Millie in costume and one of the Duffer brothers in what looks like some sort of storage room or warehouse. We've seen this location like a couple times, but like it's like they look like blinds or something. It's really weird. I'm very much so looking forward to seeing what this location is and where they're at and all that. So I'm very excited about that. Then we got a color photo of Winona Ryder and Cara Buono in costume rehearsing a scene at the Wheeler House kitchen. There appears to be a flask in the pocket of the apron that Cara is wearing. So many have speculated that this could be a Vecnavision, or she's in some kind of trance or something like that.
Yeah, and I think this is the other one that I feel like these two, this one and the one of them in the field, to me are like this two like standout like photos from this set. And I know, Ashley, you also feel that way about this one, where there's just so much going on in this photo, and it tells such a story, even though all they're doing is prep work here. And I feel like I'm so excited to see whatever this scene is, because, like when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is so great that they're going to have scenes together, look like quality scenes. Joyce has come to talk to her about something, and I was just excited. But then, like, you pointed out to me that she kind of looks doll-like, and kind of her eyes look kind of glazed, like Cara Buono's, like she kind of looks out of it, and that there appears to be a flask in her apron, and that Joyce looks normal, but Karen doesn't. And so once you said that, I looked at it closer, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, something looks off. So I wonder if Vecna has control, if it's a trance, if, like you said, does Joyce realize that something's up with Holly? Has she come to tell her that something is wrong? And like Karen's like totally out of it and it takes her a minute. Like there's so much going on in this photo, and I'm so excited for this scene.
Yeah, so am I. And it's like, it's funny how like a picture can tell you 1,000 words, and this one definitely does. And even with just this picture, and it's just they're rehearsing a scene. It's not even like they're actually filming the scene at this point, but something just looks very off with Karen in this photo. I mean, Joyce looks like she's, you know, being typical Joyce, like, you know, maybe like I think of like in season 3 when she was talking about the magnets and stuff, and how it's like, you notice like the magnets and everything like that. And so I feel like Joyce is approaching Karen here and being like, did you notice anything, you know, different? And Karen, again, just being, I mean, I know Karen can be somewhat aloof most of the time because she has no idea where her kids are a majority of the time, except for Holly. And so I feel like if this scene is regarding Holly, or maybe this is after like she presumably goes missing, maybe Joyce recognizes, okay, well, Holly is always with Karen, and Karen always knows where Holly is, and you know she's not freaking out about that. And also just the way like Karen is dressed here. I mean, again, it's just all, it just seems very off and out of character for Karen. And the flask, I mean, like Karen, from what we have seen in the show, I mean, she's a wine drinker. That's, she doesn't really drink anything stronger than that. And so, yeah, this one, I don't feel like people talk enough about this behind the scenes photo enough. Other than when they want to say, oh, it's, you know, Joyce and Karen talking about Joyce and Hopper going on a date, which, haha, I get it. But like,
I don't
I don't think that's going to be the big focal point, you know?
know. And David Harbour's outright said that. Like, I don't know if you saw this, but I think this was after season 4 came out. Somebody was asking if they were ever going to go on that date, and he was like, "Well, you know what happened at referencing season 1 and 2, basically how Mike and Eleven talk about the snowball, and then they wind up going to the snowball." And he goes like, he was basically saying like, yeah, eventually they're going to wind up going to Enzo's, and right now like they obviously can't do that. So like, I don't think that's it. Like, they're going to Enzo's eventually, but not today. Not when this photo is from. I don't think. Yeah, no, this, and also just Joyce's facial expression, it gives the something is wrong, why are you not listening to me vibe. And Karen looks completely out of it. And like you said, like she appears to be like a wine drinker. Like, you know, we see her drink, I think, when she's on the phone at one point. But apart from that, she seems to be like a casual or social drinker. She's not an alcoholic. There's no indication of that. Like you said, we don't see her drink anything other than wine. And yeah, she can be a bit aloof at times, but her and Joyce are friends. So like, yeah, her behavior does not match what we've seen of her. So yeah, I agree. Once you pointed that out to me, I was like, oh my gosh, something is definitely wrong here. Something is so very wrong. And we haven't seen any footage or any photos of Ted, so God knows what's happened to that poor guy.
Yeah, and I believe that this is so far the only real behind the scenes content of Karen, like in character, that we've seen so far. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Everything else that we've seen has been her either out of costume or, yeah, it's either been out of costume, yeah, or just, divorced from that. So, I mean, they've clearly, I guess, yeah, I think we've seen some of her in her trailer or her out of costume, but this is the only like in context shot we've gotten, and I feel like there's a reason for that, you know?
Yeah, and I think the Wheeler family in general is going to be, I think, so important to the season, probably more so than they've ever been, it seems like. And I'm just so happy to see like Karen is actually, it appears, actually going to get some significant screen time this season because, she was bumped up to series regular right before season 4 came out. And as Starcourt Study Hall pointed out the other day on their recent episode, Karen only had like 3 lines in season 4, even though she had a poster and was bumped up to series regular.
Yeah, and that gives me the same vibe as Vicky, honestly. Because like I know she wasn't a series regular, but like I feel like they'd planned to do more with Karen because like like we have that scene with the parents where the camera zooms in on Karen and really puts an emphasis and focus on her. And I remember when like journalists had gotten the preview, they'd all said like, oh, something like they're really focusing on Karen, so something must be going on with that. So I feel like they had more planned and they ran out of time. Because you wouldn't bump somebody up to a series regular and give them a poster if you weren't planning to do more with their character. And likewise with a character like Vicky, like you don't cast an actress who has just been the lead on a show for several seasons in a bit part and not use her. So I just feel like they must have run out of time.
Yeah, and I think it was like you said in chapter 7, like it does zoom into Karen, and there's like such a big emphasis there, and we don't see her again until like almost like the very end of episode 9, and she just acts so hunky-dory, like like Nancy and company do any of that stuff. I mean, she seemed more concerned about Mike being home and all that, and that just I think they ran out of time, or either filming or the editing bay. I don't know, but it was very weird for sure.
And I feel like, how they set up where she was like calling the police and trying to find Nancy because they couldn't locate her? I feel like they were setting up more of a confrontation there when Nancy got back to be like, where have you been? And I wonder if they just had to leave that on the cutting room floor because they ran out of time, because we don't see what Nancy's explanation was. We don't, we don't see her attempts or their attempts to try to get a hold of Mike or the buyers, but it's clear that when they finally show up, they've obviously been worried. So I feel like there must have been maybe like a deleted scene in there. Like I feel like they were setting that up. So yeah, I feel like either they had to cut it for time and editing, or they had to cut it during filming because they ran out of time.
Yeah, because like Nancy doesn't even come back home in the rest of episode 7, and then episode 8. Like they immediately, it seems like they camped out in the RV, I guess, or at Max's house to go to the war zone and all that, and then they went back into the Upside Down, and she's still wearing the same clothes as she was in chapters like 5, 6, and 7. So yeah, I don't even think Nancy even came home, or if she did, Karen didn't notice.
Yeah, and my hope is that that scene in particular, I don't think there's, it won't be a reason to go back to that, but my hope is that for stuff they did manage to film in season 4, even if they had to cut it, that we're going to see some of that in season 5, because it feels like either they had to cut a lot of stuff for time, and yeah, like you said, it doesn't appear that they go home, like that's, they stay out, and then so I feel like they were trying to set something up there, and then they ran out of time. Alrighty, so next up we've got a color photo of David, Winona, and Millie in costume at the junkyard talking to the Duffer Brothers. We saw a close-up shot of this one in an earlier behind-the-scenes drop where you could just see David Harbour in the front, and that was it. So we got an expanded version where you can see Winona and Millie in the background in costume. I'm personally very excited that we're going to get to see more of the Byers-Hopper family this season. It appears so. And I, like a lot of fans, was expecting that to feature heavily in season 4 and was like super disappointed when we got like almost nothing. We get a little bit of time with them in California, but a lot of that is marred by that weird comic relief thing they were trying to do with like Jonathan and Argyle. So I just wanted to see quality family time. I know a lot of people did, or, quality Malevolent time, and instead we got that. So I'm personally really excited that it appears we're going to get like Byers-Hopper family time this season, because really looking forward to that in season 4. We're super disappointed when we didn't really get much.
Yeah, so was I. I mean, I was at least hoping that Joyce and Eleven would have actually had some conversations in season 4 out in California. But yeah, I I love this behind the scenes photo, and I think it's just so great to see that Joyce is there supporting Eleven and Hopper, presumably to help like with Eleven's further training out there at the junkyard. And yeah, I mean, it's so great to see like Eleven, maybe in the not the most conventional way, has a family, and I think that's just so sweet, and it's just so it'll be so nice to see them, if for a short while, I guess in season 5, have that family time that we as the audience have been waiting for so long to see. So yeah, I think it is a very sweet behind the scenes picture.
Yeah, and something I will give the show credit for is that they do seem to take in, if there's a criticism or something that fans are like, what the heck was this about a previous season, they do seem to take, on a high level, that stuff into consideration. Like, you can see how they improve on things over time. There's something that people point out, be like, all right, what the heck happened with that? Or like, well, we were expecting this. Or, if they try something that doesn't land, I want to give the Duff brothers credit. They do take that into consideration. They do improve on those things each season, or make an attempt to anyway. So I do appreciate the fact that whether that was the original plan or not, they've clearly heard the feedback that was not what we wanted. Like, we don't need some weird stoner comedy thing. What people are looking for is quality family time, not stoner comedy. So I do appreciate they're making an attempt to be like, okay, we tried this, it didn't work. This is what people want to see. Whether that was the plan or not, from the beginning, I don't know. But I'm also very excited about that. And I think it's kind of beautiful. I think that having that supportive, stable family structure is something that all those characters have really been looking for, for a long time. And I'm really excited to see how that like impacts them psychologically, and, and just seeing those scenes of them together. Because having that like loving family life, that structure, that stability is huge, especially if you're trying to overcome challenges. And I'm really excited to see all of that finally on screen. Okay, so next up, we've got a color photo of Priya Ferguson in some 1950s X clothing, sitting at a dinner table examining a piece of pie on a fork with the episode's director, Frank Darabont. And this is another standout from this set of behind the scenes footage, because this one is super interesting. I'll be honest, when I first saw this photo, I just assumed that, Erica was at like Thanksgiving or like some kind of fancy family dinner, because I was like, oh, she's all dressed up. But then Ashley pointed out to me that her clothing looked more 1950s and 1980s, and that like the house that she appears to be in is a lot fancier than what we've seen before. And that if you look closely, some eagle-eyed fans pointed this out, that you can see what appears to be Holly's sleeve to the left, just off camera. Like, you can see a little bit peeking out from her outfit from, earlier at the Wheeler house. So I'm also very curious as to what the heck is going on here. Is it a Vecna trance or some kind of vision, or where he's pulled Holly and Erica in somehow? I'm super curious as to what's going on here. Ashley, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, so like, are all the children just going to go missing this season? Because like, that's the vibes I've gotten so far. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, this was another one that stuck out to me as well. Mostly because of what Erica is wearing. I mean, obviously this doesn't appear to me to be the Creel house, but it does appear like maybe they're in a mansion, or wherever they are. It's somewhere fancy. And just by her outfit, I mean, it does give me 1950s vibes. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going on here. And just the fact that I remember like 3 years ago, at the end of season 4, just thinking it was just going to be all apocalyptic and all that. And now, like, getting these behind the scenes images and things like that, seeing that it's kind of not going to just all be like that. And I'll be very interested to see where all this is going. What is all going on here. But like with Karen, it's good to see Erica seemingly have more to do this season, because she also was bumped to series regular in season 4, and again, she did not have as much akin to a series regular in season 4. I mean, she had a little bit more than Karen, but not by much until like the really towards the end of the season. So it's really good to see that Erica is going to be in on the main action this season.
Yeah, and it's funny because she didn't have that status in season 3, and yet I believe she had more lines and a bigger role in season 3 as part of the Scoops Troop with the Russia plot than she did in season 4, which is kind of strange. They would bump her up and then not use her as much. And yeah, I don't know there. Like, unless maybe there's a bunch of deleted scenes we haven't seen, because the Hawkins plot was probably the tightest, well thought out plot of the entire season. So yeah, it's weird they would bump her up, because that happened as well with Joe Keery. But in that case, from season 1 to season 2, like he got series regular content. You know what I mean? Like he's gotten plots and stuff that's like, yeah, this guy's obviously a series regular. So it's surprising that they would do that and then not use those characters to their full extent. Because, I mean, you're basically paying them for something that's not happening, which is a lot of money to pay for something you're not getting. So that strikes me as odd as well. And just your comment about, like, are all the kids going missing this season? I was just saying this to my best friend the other day was, the Duffer Brothers made that comment after season 4 came out that, season 5 was going to bring things full circle, and everybody just kind of assumed they meant, like, in terms of, character development and relationships and more in that way, the character dynamics. And then the missing poster came out and all this behind the scenes content, and I was like, wow, when they said that, I didn't think they meant everyone's going to get abducted. Like, we're bringing it full circle back to season 1. Guess what? Everyone's getting abducted. Like, I didn't think that's what they meant. But apparently.
Yes, my thoughts exactly. Like, no, they really meant that. I mean, they even have a title, The Vanishing of Blank Blank, like with season 1. So yeah, I mean, they really are bringing it back full circle if the children are going missing again. So yeah, I mean, I'm like, yeah, it's definitely not what I had expected for the 5th and final season.
Yeah, me neither. And yeah, it makes you question other things they've said, because if that's what they meant, like I think it might be a case of what they said was accurate, but it's not the way we all interpreted it, So, like, what they've said is true, but it's like, yeah, we actually meant that literally, not metaphorically. So, and also the way they said, like, I watched that interview and, they started talking about, the character dynamics between different characters. So I feel like it was a bit of a misdirect there, because they started talking about, like, Nancy and Steve and Jonathan and some of the other characters. So it was a bit of a misdirect where they were like, yeah, it's coming full circle. And then they talked about that and it made it sound like those two things were connected, which they may be. We don't know. But yeah, didn't think they meant that literally. There's levels, apparently. There's levels to that one. And then finally, as part of this drop, we have a color photo of Maya, Joe, Finn, and Charlie goofing around in the Wheelers' basement. Bringing it back to Max called it the armpit that is Mike Wheeler's basement.
Yeah, and it, which, one of my favorite lines, by the way, because it smells down there, and the fact that, like, season 4 was the first time we ever saw Max in Mike's basement. But yeah, I mean, the basement is so iconic to this show, and yeah, I'm definitely gonna miss it. Which really, in season 4, they weren't really in the basement that much, which the same for season 3 as well. So I'm hoping we get some more basement scenes this season.
Yeah, and I mean, we probably will. I mean, they've said they're bringing it back to season one, and they spent a good chunk of time in the basement in season one, especially if they're hiding people and stuff. So, also, I've wondered too if Holly's getting abducted from the house. I feel like the basement might be a key location there because if let's say she is in the upside down or she is hiding, you know what I mean? You need a place to hide, and the basement's a good place to hide. So, I think we could potentially see, a situation where we're in there in the real world or the right side up rather, and then also in the upside down as the characters are looking for places to hide. Or we also know they're going back, in the upside down is frozen, so getting stuff from the basement. So yeah, I think we are going to get a lot of basement time, which is nice because it's such a cool set. And I like how in season 4 we got to see like more of it. We got to see the kind of workshop area, that's kind of like to the right of the staircase. That was cool. All right. And then on December 20th, Millie posted some behind the scenes pics from previous seasons with a black and white video of her giving a goodbye speech to the cast and crew. That was very sweet. She posted that on Instagram.
Yeah, that one, I mean, all of them were really sweet, but that one, I think definitely, pulled at my heartstrings, because like she mentioned it being like, a graduation, and, it made me think of my high school graduation in 2016. And like, I mean, I grew up with most of my friends since we were like in Head Start, and, by the time senior year got there, like we were ready to like kill each other because, we spent all our lives together and like hung out, after school and all that. And, but yet on graduation day, everyone was crying and like it was finally here and we're about to go our separate ways. And we know that our lives are forever going to be changed. And, this will probably be the last time we see some of these people. And, I think that really, really got to me. I think because I've been there and that's, Millie has had her own experience, with like 10 years of your life. I mean, that's a lot of time to be with cast and crew members because they become like your family. And not only that, but because like Millie gets such a bad rap, I think, from the fans or the public because she's not doesn't seem to be as in love with the show or the cast and crew as the others do, and I don't think that's true. Um, I mean, here, like, you can definitely tell this is real emotion that she's feeling for these people, but I do think it was good to see her here, like, kind of reassure, like, the fans. I love these people. I grew up with these people. Um, and that she was really sad. Like, I know recently she was at a convention and she said like she cried for like 8 hours. So yeah, that one in particular pulled my heartstrings a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference between the cast and the crew. Like, she'll likely see the cast again, you know, or they could do something in the future. But I mean, you've worked with that same crew of people since season 1, season 2. That's over a decade of your life. You see these people, every day for months on end, and then for the last 2 seasons, like for a year. They're all in Atlanta. You see those people more time than you'd see your own friends or family. And a bunch of the cast have spoken about this, but they all live near each other. They live in the same neighborhood in Atlanta when they're filming, and so you're just constantly around these people that you like spending time with for over a decade, and then now that filming has wrapped, everyone kind of goes their separate ways, and yeah, you'll see people, but it's not. Uh, it's not the same, you know what I mean, as having that one singular experience together for all that time. So yeah, it definitely is emotional, and I can understand why it is so emotional for everyone who's worked on the show, because it's saying goodbye to the end of an era, and they've grown up on that show, and yeah, it is emotional, definitely. All right, so next up, on January 2nd, Noah Schnapp shared some behind the scenes photos to recap 2024. We got a photo of the scene in the woods where you can see Will in the viewfinder, and in the background you can see him standing on the ground with a bunch of smoke behind him. We got some earlier behind the scenes footage of this scene, and Ashley, smarty pants that she is, figured out that some of the props that we saw in the background were used for smoke machines. So it's cool to get confirmation of that they are using smoke machines in this scene. So Ashley gets a gold star for that and a huge imaginary round of applause.
Thank you. I consider it an honor. But yeah, I think it's very cool that they are using the smoke machines. That's one of the things I just love about the special effects of this show is that most of them are practical effects. Believe it or not, they do use CGI and all that, but they try to insert as many practical effects as humanly possible, and I just think that's one of the key things that sets this show apart from a lot like it, is not relying 100% on CGI. But yeah, I loved this behind the scenes picture that Noah posted, because like some people have said like Vecna trance or something like that, but I think what's happening here is I believe that this is goes back to like what we saw Finn and Millie in another behind the scenes shot in the Upside Down. I believe that Will is with Mike and 11 here in the Upside Down. I feel like that's all part of the same scene. And I think it's part of the Upside Down that's like merged into the natural world. And I think that Will has either heard something that has caused him to have like a flashback or something. Or he's felt like the tingling on his neck or something, and he's looking up at like something, the source of the sound, but still a very, very chilling scene playing out here for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be super cool to see what this looks like in the final version. There are a few scenes like that where we've gotten a few different angles of the scene and like a lot of footage. So it'll be cool to see the final version.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, what makes this so much more harrowing is the fact that in season 5, this will be the first time we've seen Will in the Upside Down since season 1, which we really didn't really see him in the Upside Down that much until like Hopper and Joyce rescued him. But I mean, for him in the show, this will be the first time that he's gone back to the Upside Down since he was taken in season 1. And I mean, just the trauma that to see him explore that trauma, or maybe now have to face that trauma again, and hopefully open up about it in season 5. I will say I'm looking forward to that part of Will's story, because again, like it really is one of the more major plot lines in the show that has been not really touched on in the show, and I really am looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, same. I'm really excited that we're going to get more of an exploration there, and we know from the earlier footage that it looks like there's going to be flashbacks to Will's time in the Upside Down, and I'm really excited as well to see more of that and to see him confront that and kind of what we learn as an audience, but also the characters about that time. And so yeah, I'm also really excited to kind of see him confront that trauma and to see what that looks like and what really happened. And I think again, it was intended to be an anthology at that point, so this wasn't part of the original plan, but I think it was very clever of them to not do flashbacks up to this point, because it leaves a lot of wiggle room and a lot of mystery. And now in the final season, they get to be like, yeah, this is what actually happened. Like, it's been implied, but here's what actually happened, which is super cool. And I'm really excited for Will's storyline this season. I'm so pumped about it. And then next up, we got a photo of a sunset with some military vehicles and guard towers in the forefront. And then we got a photo of Noah in costume peering out of a porthole that's set into a brick wall that's been painted white. Based on the lighting equipment, you can see the top. This appears to be a set. Really interested to see what this building is in the show, though, because I don't think we've seen anything quite like that before. So I'm interested to see what this building is that they're filming at, or that they've created.
Yeah, so am I. And it's very interesting that Will apparently is there. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing where he is in this photo.
Yeah, and then next up, we've got a photo of his Will Byers actor's chair in the upside down woods at night. We've seen a lot of footage that's taken, during the nighttime of the woods with upside down vines. We've also had a lot of, behind the scenes footage from actors of them arriving or leaving set either really early in the morning or very late at night. Cara Buono has been doing a lot of night shoots in particular. So, and we had that previous photo of the bikes as well at the track. So it looks like that there's going to be, a lot of scenes set in the upside down or at nighttime, or both. So I'm also very excited to see what that looks like. And will we finally get the answer to, is the atmosphere in the upside down toxic or not? And how does that affect things once it merges into Hawkins?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't want to jump to conclusions here, but I feel like the fact that in one of the behind the scenes pictures that Millie Bobby Brown posted on her Instagram of her in costume as 11, who's also has a bandana around her neck, seems to indicate to me that she's going to use that as a covering for her nose. So we're probably going to go back to it. Yes, it is toxic, and it's just yeah, we don't know. I mean, it's TBD, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, because it was established to be toxic all the way through, seasons 1 and 2. And then season 4, Steve comments on how, they don't want to be breathing that stuff in. And they don't really have anything with them that could use to cover their faces. But then, they go back in, they go all the way to the store, they get supplies. They don't get anything to cover their faces, and they just go back in. And I just... and what's weird to me is this was filmed during COVID, so it would have been the perfect excuse to cover their faces. So it makes even less sense to me that they covered their faces in previous seasons when they didn't have to worry about that. And then during COVID, in close quarters, they were like, nah, you don't need to do that. So I don't know. And they're really strict about what kind of instructions the crew is given for costuming. So but they don't appear to have any side effects. So I don't know. It's very weird to me. Did you see that meme after season 4 came out? Or I think it was the trailer. People were like, previous season, the atmosphere is toxic. You need hazmat suits and face coverings. Season 4, walk, fashion, baby. And they had the shot of the teens in the upside down just walking, no facial covering, nothing, no hazmat, nothing. What the, I love that sequence, but what the heck was that? Is it toxic or is it not toxic?
Yeah, I know. And it, again, yeah, it's very weird. I don't, or maybe it's just the tunnels that are toxic. I don't know. It's, yeah, it's just kind of like how in season 3, when they spent basically all season long telling us that, this stuff in the upside down only activates when a gate is open in Hawkins, and then, reverse in season 4, when apparently, there's no portal that's open in Russia, and the Demogorgon and the Demodogs and all that over there in Russia are alive and all that. I mean, it's just, yeah, I think they sometimes they retcon to fit the narrative, which I think is just unfortunate, because it's with the upside down being toxic, you could still have that in season 4. I don't get it either.
And it feels to me, honestly, it doesn't feel to me like a retcon, like they were intentionally trying to be. It more feels like they were scrambling to film something and weren't thinking about it. Like, you know what I mean? It comes off not like a deliberate choice, but more like we wrote this in quarantine by ourselves. We clearly didn't get anyone to double check it. We ran out of time. We're scrambling to film it, and oh crap, this is the only footage we have. Like, a lot of the scenes, like on rewatch, like the acting is good, but it's like, or you know, like something is like that probably wasn't the best take of that. But I feel like it's like, well, I feel like they used that one because I don't know, something happened to the other piece of footage they had, and you know what I mean? Like, there's like some of the, yeah, I don't know, that's the vibe it gives me. It doesn't give me the vibe of like intentional retcon. It gives me the vibe of, oh crap, we forgot to account for this, and we don't have the ability to go back and reshoot this. Like, that's more the vibe it gives me, which is unfortunate because they were so good at that for seasons like 1 through 3. It's just a shame that like the season that sets up the finale has these things in it, you know?
Yeah, and it's like now with season 5, it being your final season, like you have to like kind of either decide if you're going to right those wrongs or if you're just going to be like, well, you know, that was, just ignore that. Please don't pay attention to that. Like this is what's really happening, you know, in the show. And I feel like, for as much good as season 4 did for the show, I still think overall, like, at least for me, when it's all said and done, like when I reflect on this show, I always kind of think back to season 4 as being just a blip, in the show, and which is unfortunate because I felt like overall that season had so much potential, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And it's unfortunate they've put themselves in a position where they either have to go in a different direction or just pretend that didn't happen or try to come up with some dialogue to explain that. And I mean, if they got really clever with the dialogue, I feel like they could, but it's just kind of unfortunate they've put themselves in that like between a rock and a hard place with some of this stuff where it's like, in order for this to match up, you got to explain it. And I feel like because of the delays in filming, they're in a position where they have to explain so many things to the audience in such a short period of time without it just being somebody like talking at us. You know, they have to do so much exposition to us as the audience and explain so many things and still keep it interesting. So I feel like that's like an unfortunate place to be in. So we'll see how they handle that. And then last up, we have a photo of Noah outside his trailer where someone has taped the words rigatoni onto the door. And he's wearing a sweater that says, "See you on the other side," in right side up and upside down lettering. The rigatoni thing, I'm guessing, is some kind of like inside joke or like nickname that someone on the cast has for him. They've like taped to his like trailer while he's on set. I did appreciate the Stancy Easter egg there, and it makes me wonder if these sweaters were given to the cast and crew as like a gift or like a wrap present, or maybe it was something he had made or someone gave it to him like personally as a gift, because it just kind of gave me that vibe, you know. And we know that they're a show that gives the cast and crew like merch, so to speak, for every season. So it kind of gave me that vibe because it's a prominent line from season 4. So it made me wonder if this was some sort of like wrap gift, or, you know, more of a personal gift.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably gifted it to him because I know that they're good about doing that, which I think is great. So yeah, I'm looking forward to when this stuff goes on sale, like so we could buy it. But yeah, I thought it was very sweet.
Yeah, me too. And I'm so excited to see this stuff on screen. And that's our show. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends. Our theme music is provided by Neon Knights. Thank you for listening to this episode of Ham Radio, a Stranger Things podcast. Please join us next time, same dial, same time.
Over and out.